Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the AskTomTech show. Now today I'm going to run through internet technologies and the different speeds and feeds and types that are available to businesses today. So there's been a lot of change here in the market in Australia with NBN coming online and fibre optic rollouts and all sorts of stuff. Now, we've all read some of the issues and challenges with the NBN network, and I think it's important for businesses to understand the impact that's going to have and does have in choosing the right internet solution for your business. For all intents and purposes, NBN's goal was to provide high-speed internet access to everyone in Australia. Whether they achieve that or not, I'm not even going into the politics of what's going to happen and how that's potentially going to happen. But to date, what we're seeing is it's not as good as it's sort of talked up to be. And particularly in a business context, we're seeing way too many issues with NBN services in home environments, let alone the impact that's having when it's deployed in a business environment. Now, the issues we're seeing come down to the way NBN is designed and the technologies it's actually using. I'll be fair, in some areas it's great because we actually do have high-speed fibre into the premise. And that's exactly what the intent was originally going to be. And in that design, we can certainly see how we get higher speeds, consistent speeds, and better outcomes for businesses. But the reality is that the NBN itself is using older technologies like copper, which is essentially what ADSL runs on, and trying to boost the speeds across that. And yes, we're getting speed increases in areas, but we're not getting the consistency we would hope. And for a business, internet speed is one thing, but the consistency in that speed is the other. You don't want to be coming in on a Monday and the internet's working really well for the first 3 hours, and then suddenly in the afternoon, when all the families get home and the kids get online, your internet grinds to a halt. That is just an absolute disaster. And we saw that with ADSL all too often. Yes, there's NBN business speeds and feeds and services, but what we're actually seeing as your business starts to grow, it's just not going to cut it. You want to have that consistency in the service. The unfortunate reality is at the moment there's an investment that needs to be made to make that happen. You're not going to get a $150 service for your business that's going to perform the way you're going to expect it to perform. As we move to more cloud technology and everything being online, you want things to be running quickly, you want things to be running efficiently, and you want them to be running consistently. You're going to need a good, high-speed, fibre-based internet to make that happen. Copper's being phased out, so any of the copper, and that's your traditional telephone lines, which can get speeds up there of sort of 10, 15, 20 meg up and down. But as your business grows, that's just probably not going to be enough. The other thing is that the copper speed's maxed at certain times, and that depends on distance from the exchange, the age of the cables, all sorts of things. So our real recommendation is a fibre-based internet solution. Depending where your business is, that could end up being quite costly. So there is a way up and a juggle around how you need to cost manage that. But if you're in an area, whether it's city, inner city, and even some more suburbs that are being designed around that in areas, you can get good fibre services, and you can get good fibre services at good rates. And when we're talking about that consistency, you need to be asking the question of what is known as contention. So contention is an internet provider will have X amount of capacity on their service, and their goal is to shove as many services as possible into that area to get a return on their investment in that. Now, the more services that go into an area on a contended link, the less reliability of performance and the less consistency you get in performance. Because your performance and your internet is then going to be governed by what others are doing in the area as well. So that's when we talk about high contention. What you want to be looking for is something that's got a really low contention. 1-to-1 is ideal because you know that every time you walk into your office, you should be guaranteed that speed. Whether it's 10 meg, 20 meg, 100 meg, or whatever it is, whatever's needed for your service and your business, a 1-to-1 service will give you that speed. And a good provider will guarantee that. You obviously pay for that, but it's a productivity discussion around how productive your team need to be online versus cost. You then have services where we can get much higher speeds for a lower cost, and they're on fiber services. So we're seeing products called Fiber 400 and Fiber 1000. So these are services that are offering speeds of up to 400 megasecond and even 1000 megasecond. Now that's quick internet, really fast. But are you guaranteed that speed? And that's the question you need to be asking. And in a lot of cases, in a lot of examples, no, you're not guaranteed that speed, because it's going to be dependent on who's in the building, how many other services that have got it. But what we can say, and what we do see, is that even if you're not getting the 400 meg speed, you're still going to get a lot faster than you would get out of your ADSL or your basic NBN style service. The issue you'll have is that you might not get the same speed every day. So one day you might be in and it's running at 400 meg and you're going, this is fantastic, it's all good. The next day you come in, it might be running at 200 meg. Now 200 meg's nothing to sneeze at. 200 meg is still really fast. But if you're trying to compare what you had yesterday and what you had today, you're gonna get a little bit frustrated around that. So just be aware of those things and what's going on. Internet is critical for every business. There is no doubt about it. You have to have internet. You have to have good internet. You have to have reliable internet. Where possible, you want to be looking at a fiber-based internet. If you can't get that, you want to be looking at a good, solid copper internet service, which, in all honesty, is going to get replaced in time as those services are decommissioned, and you will end up with fiber. NBN's good if that's all you can get. It's certainly not going to be our recommendation for most businesses, because it isn't reliable in its performance and those sort of things. And the other area that you've got now access to in a lot of areas is your sort of wireless and your 4G style networks. Now we're seeing now a number of the providers offering uncapped data, unlimited data, those sort of things. And that's opening up more discussions around what you can do with that mobile and 4G internet. Now 4G internet in itself is similar, it's highly contended, does depend on the area you're in, so speeds will fluctuate. There are some limitations around how we manage that and deliver that, but for some organisations, a good solid 4G service will work wonders. It'll be a lot faster than your ADSL. You can move it wherever you need to go, so you're not tied down to location, depending on coverage. But it's starting to become a real alternative for a number of businesses. And as the investment into 5G and those type of technologies happens over the next 12, 18 months, 2 years, we're probably going to see that style of service become more mainstream, more accessible, and more cost effective. So if we recap, we sort of look at, for today and where we're at in the current market, we're looking at a number of options. You can have NBN. You're not really going to get an ADSL service much anymore. So you'll be moving, as your entry level would be an NBN style service, and most providers are providing that now. Does depend on area, does depend on location. For a business, you want to be looking at least a fiber style service, sort of 20 meg, unlimited data, the type of services you want to be looking at with low contention rates. So you know that every time you walk into the office, you're expecting a consistent service. Ideally, you want to be looking at fiber. Fiber in that where you've got flexibility to scale. And I wouldn't go past the Fiber 400 or Fiber 1000 services, depending on the type of things you're doing. But for standard cloud-based apps, email, browsing, all that sort of stuff, a Fiber 400 or a Fiber 1000 service, even if you're not getting that speed, you're going to have a really good experience on that from an internet day-to-day performance. So I hope that's given you a bit of clarity and a bit of insight into the type of technologies, the technologies we're using with clients, and the technologies we're seeing work really well. And look, if you've got any questions, feel free to leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll get back to you soon. Have a good day.